I made this video for my grade 5 students who are now sitting at home in their apartment. They would like to be in the classroom, but they cannot. So today's lectures, we're going to talk about the Vikings. Yes, the Vikings. And some of my grade 5 students, they've been waiting for this lecture since last semester now. So this is it. Now, as for now, I'm going to give you guys lectures about, yes, the Vikings. Now, first of all, when we talk about the Vikings, what do you have in mind? Bunch of like men, we're having a thick beard, carrying an axe, and then after that, this is the most iconic one. They will wear a helmet, and the helmet has a horn that looks like that, yeah. And then after that, they are rowdy, and then they are violent, and then like pillaging, and then creating destructions and fear among the people. Well, you know what? Tell you guys something. That's not completely true, and that is not completely kind of like false either. Okay, first of all, now let me the purpose of my lecture is try to straighten up our misconceptions about the Vikings, or maybe your misconceptions about the Vikings. Disclaimer though, there are probably more accurate informations out there. I will probably make a few mistakes here and there. Without further ado, so there you go, the Vikings. When we talk about the Vikings, first of all, they never call themselves the Vikings. Now, who are these Viking people? Vikings are the people from Scandinavian countries. Scandinavian countries are like countries like in the northern part of Europe, like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland. Now, when we talk about the Vikings, they are the story about them was prominently they were prominently about is a part of the chapters in the history that starting from 8th century until 11th century. So circa 800 all the way until 11,000. Sorry, 1,100, 11, yeah, 11,000. 11,000? No, wait, what? Yeah, 1,100, 1,100 AD. So, another thing is that you need to know, the word Viking itself, it means in their word, it means like to go raiding. It's a verb basically. Viking means kind of like raiding. They will go raiding. So you can imagine like the conversation will go like that. Hey, you know what? Let's go Viking. Let's go raiding. So those are kind of the activities that they have. Now, as probably you have in mind that the Viking have to do is always kind of like raiding. Now, actually, it's not completely right though. The Vikings, they have to gone through some kind of like a process of progressions like over the years. Yeah, most of them they start with by raiding, okay, by raiding. But soon they realize that it's so much more beneficial for them to trade, okay, trade with the other nation, with the other town in the other cities. And later they also found out that, well, you know what? Might as well for them just to settle down and to live in the land, okay, live in the land that they kind of like constantly visiting. Now, a little bit kind of like geographical background about the Scandinavian countries, okay, like if you've been there, and I never been there, but I just Google it and then I read books about it, not books, but then again articles about it. That land in those times are not suitable place to have a huge dense of population. What I'm trying to say, the environment is very hostile, it's very cold, the land is not easy to be worked with. So in order for you to have a big town, then it means you need to secure the food. In order for you to secure the food, then you need what? You need farm, you need huge amount of farm to produce the food. Now, they don't have that privilege. They will act their activities by trading with each other, and oftentimes they'll pillaging each other. These people considered to be as an opportunistic and at the same time very adventurous. Now, all of this kind of adventures is possible because they have this ship design, ship technology, which is, it seems to be kind of like, I think it was simple yet very brilliant. Now, the design of their ship known as the Viking Longboats, okay, longboats, like usually if you watch it in the movie, like How to Train Your Dragon, those kind of like a wooden long ship that has a head of a snake in front of it. Okay, that head of the snake. Well, first of all, okay, the head of the snake in the tip of the boat is their belief. Is their belief that somehow it's
in order for them, of course, Viking Raids, know, sea is very dangerous because
There in the middle of the sea live this kind of like a giant snake, a Jormungandr, if I'm not wrong. That should be discussed in the in the Norse mythology, the Jormungandr. So by building the ship with the snake head on the tip of the boat, it's kind of like to fool the Jormungandr, the giant snake, that hey, you know what? These ships are my children, so let us not hit it. So traveling in the sea is kind of like dangerous thing. Greatest things about like the Viking ship design is like it has a flexible kind of like wood. It's strong enough, but yet at the same time flexible. So when the big waves kind of like smashing over their hull and everything, will just kind of like deflect back the wave. So it can like it can travel through the water like considered to be faster than compared to the other kind of like clumsy ships that being designed by another probably like by the Frankish kingdoms. Okay, so and then another cool things about this longboat design, that it has a flat bottom and then it has a keel. Now I will show it to you guys the pictures about the keel. Now this design of the ship it make the Vikings possible to travel through into the river, yeah, from the sea and then going through the river. Now that would not be possible if you're having a big clumsy ship. Okay, now what does it have to do with this kind of like ship design? Now with this kind of like ship design, the Vikings, it enough to brings them to it brings them to many places that somehow that only exist in their imagination. So some of them they even travel across the Atlantic Ocean and then like discovered America far before Christopher Columbus found it in 14th century. Now, and some of them also like they even reach Mediterranean seas. Like if you look at the world map, that is a long way to go. Well, it's not that simple though. But then again, it's a long way to go, and it's impressive. Since I mentioned about the design of the longboat is very important for the Vikings lifestyle, every town, every settlement that located near the river or near the sea is not safe from the Vikings. And the Vikings, known as opportunist kind of like raiders themselves, they usually pick an easy target. They will go with their boat. Okay, probably it fits about 30-40 men in the one single longboat, and they will sailing through into this kind of like settlement, and they raid, and after that they will take everything that they will think that is worth enough, like even including the people as a slave, the booties, okay, the golds, the food. And after that, they will run back into their boats immediately and then left. Before they were being before the huge army kind of trying to stop them. So it's just kind of like a hit and run tactic, if you guys remember that term, hit and run tactic. So and then they've been keep doing that over and over and over again, and then they terrorize a lot of settlements, especially in England, in Ireland, and also France during those times, which is known at the time were known as a Frankish kingdom. Okay, Carolingian. No, yeah, Frankish kingdoms. Okay, and they've been doing that, and then they're good at it. They're very good at it because, as I said earlier, they were very kind of being opportunists, and to the point that sometimes they can be very cruel. But I'm not saying that they are way more cruel than the other nations during those times. Well, anyone can be cruel. That is just the human nature, as the Bible described. Okay, the wickedness of men. Now, one of the famous raid was happened in a place in Northumbria. Northumbria is located in England, what modern right now England. Lindisfarne is a monastery that consists of a lot of monks, educated scholar monks, and these monks are diligently preserving the knowledge of the knowledge of the ancients, okay, from the Roman writings and from these classical Greek writings, and then they copy it into manuscript, and then they store it and they preserve the knowledge. And not just that one, Lindisfarne turned out to be, they consist of a lot of valuable artifacts made out of golds and made out of silvers. Now you know what, that is an easy target for the Vikings. The Vikings easily plunder the Lindisfarne and then kill the monks and take some of the monks as a slave. How terrified for the monks that time, okay, and how frustrating is for the monks try to speak to the Vikings, because number one, maybe because they speak different language. Number two, they came from different culture. The Vikings, they do not appreciate shown of weaknesses. They were probably being amused, okay, with the fact that these monks are helpless, And it was a famous story, and then like the news that the Lindisfarne has been plundered by the Vikings, it spread across the Europe like so fast, and then it terrified many more kind of like what monasteries and settlements, okay, and as a French settlements. Now soon they realized that this reputation, this bad reputation, to their advantage. Some of the group of the Vikings, they start to kind of like extorting the local rulers to become the bodyguard. So to bodyguard means like this. Look, hey, you know what? Such and such king of a ruler of Frankis, one of the Frankis kingdom, for example, or kingdom of Mercia, I will not going to attack your city. I will not going to attack your town. I will not going to hurt your people as long you are like what? As long you give us like amount of gold, huge amount of gold. Okay. Oh, by the way, we'll come back again next week. If you stop sending us gold, then we cannot guarantee that maybe one of our Viking neighbors will attack you. Yeah, those kind of like preman thing, like in Bahasa Indonesia we call it preman. They're just like being preman, okay, asking for money that they don't deserve, and then after that, in return, they offer protections, which is the protections they provide is actually, well, they're the one who protect themselves from who? Protect themselves from the Vikings. That's a horrible things, guys. Soon the Vikings realize that, and soon the service they offer is being used by many other rulers in Europe. Okay, next part is about the Viking warriors. I mentioned it earlier in the beginning of the lectures. If you imagine like the Vikings wearing a helmet that has a horn in it, oh, that is completely wrong. The source about their descriptions about how they look, it came from the Christians, and written 4 to 500s after the Viking age. The Christians considered to be were the victims, and then they kind of like they victimized themselves, and then they exaggerate, probably they will exaggerate the wickedness of the Vikings, and but of course, guys, here's the thing: history hates simplicity. Okay, things are not that simple, black and white. So now let's go back to this kind of like Viking warriors. Now, typical Viking warriors, they will have this kind of like belief that if they fight with all their strength, with all their might, with all they got, they fought courageously, then they have this belief that the Valkyrie, you guys have learned that one from the Norse mythology, the Valkyrie will kind of like will pick them up, their spirit, and after that they will took them into Valhalla. Okay, Valhalla is a giant hall that belongs to giant dining hall belongs to Odin, and then where these worthy warriors will be gathered around for Odin. Odin and also this warrior someday have to face the Ragnarok, or the final battle. Okay, the final battle itself, that's the time for you guys. Why am I making sounds like the electric guitar? The Valhalla Ragnarok. Oh, okay. The Ragnarok is a final battle that between the gods and the monsters. Like one of them is like the snake giant. Okay, and Odin will die, and then Thor will die. So there, the warriors, while waiting, they will eat they will eat beers, they will drink beers, and they will eat meat, and and somehow they will be somehow kind of like immortal. You can imagine what will you do if you're warriors after you eat and after that you drink plenty of beers? Then you're gonna have fun with your friends, right? Now, how are you gonna have fun with your friends? You fight. Think about it. If you chop off one of your fellow warriors' hands and then you are immortal, then what will happen with your hands? Your hands will grow. Okay. Weird. Anyway, so the Vikings, they are not wearing that kind of like helmet, and their main weapon usually, it's kind of like interesting. They're using an axe, a battle axe. It's a kind of like a one-handed axe. Probably the handle is kind of like a bit longer, and it's and also a shield made out of a wood, rounded shield. Okay, and it's light, and it is the Vikings, they are using mobility to kind of to attack their enemy using the shield at the same time with the axe. Now the the shield itself is a very lightweight shield. Okay, over time you have to replace with the new shield because it's made out of a wood. Some of the Viking warriors, they were known as the berserker. Okay, berserkers. Now these berserkers are the warriors who are in the state of trance, the state of somehow he will ignore the pain that he will receive. he will be kind of like rage, full of rage, and then he will jump into the middle of the battle, and then like he will like be very violent, and he'll be very angry. Imagine Hulk, and he will ignore any kind of like injury that he will receive, and oftentimes they are so dangerous that they might accidentally hurt their fellow Vikings warriors. Yeah. So these are the berserker. Some of the interesting story that I found out that they even have to take this berserker warrior into their longboat, and then but then again they were being tied. They were being tied with the rope to prevent the berserker to hurting the fellow Vikings inside of the boat. But by the time they were like what, they were in the battlefield, and there you go. Release that berserker warriors and let him create some havoc. Okay, I think I have to divide the sectors into 3 sections. Viking as the raider or raiding, and second one is like Vikings as the traders. Okay, now as soon they realize that somehow they make more money, they make more benefit if they are trading. Why would you should kill your opponent or someone who is competing with you if you can trade with them? So it's just like, look, think it this way: if I kill my opponent, the Vikings thinking like this, right? I win, you lose. I gain something, you lose. But if I trade with you, I win, you win. I gain something, you gain something. Happy. So that's what they do. So they start to trade with these nations, with these kingdoms, and they even trade with the caliphates in Spain, in Cordoba, and also in Middle East. Okay. They extend their trading network all the way to the Islam and also to Constantinople. Well, interesting though, like the reason like why the Vikings start to trade with them, because somehow they realized that the Constantinople, remember, like the main strength of the Constantinople is the wall itself, right? Now, Vikings are very fierce warrior. They are very expert warriors, but they are not so good in attacking a big scale city like Constantinople. It has a huge defensive wall, and then Vikings tactics and strategy, no use. So well, there you go. That's why they start trade, including with the Arabs. Okay, with the Arabs, with the Muslims, they are a way advanced, organized kind of like military structures that they have. So the Vikings decided to trade with them, and so what would they trade? The Vikings, they captured a lot of slaves and then sold them into slavery. And also fur, okay, animal fur. And what would they get from these Muslims? They got golds. They got lots of coins and golds. Okay, like that is 2. Now the third one. Okay, first is like the Viking will go raiding. The second one, the Viking will go trading. And last but not least, the Vikings looking for place to settle. Okay, so the settling, yeah, raiding, trading, settling. The homeland of the Vikings is not a good place to live because it's very harsh. You need to, well, it's not as harsh as like a desert, but it's a rugged places. Cannot support a huge population of a city. As the Vikings start to looking for a place to settle down, many of them they decide to settling in the northern part of England, and they call it as a Danelaw. Yeah, we will talk more about Danelaw when we talk about in the next chapters when we talk about Alfred the Great. And many of them also, like some of them, they live inland in what become now the modern France. And in fact, that area known as Normandy, which is in the local language means like the northern people, Normandy, the northern people land. So the local Frankish kingdoms call them like the Normandy, because these are the immigrants, not immigrants. No, immigrants is not the word. These are the Scandinavian settlers who live in their land, and they were known as a Normandy. Okay, we'll talk more about the Normandy when we talk about later on in a few kind of like lectures when we talk about William the Conqueror. Okay, so and when we talk about like looking to place where to settle. The Vikings are known for their for their adventures. Okay, most of these adventures are written in what we call saga. Now, saga is basically, if I have to put it in a nutshell, is a long epic story of a hero, of a person, and is being told from one generation to generation, usually in a setting of like what, in a setting of a dining hall where there's a fire, there's a roasted meat and everything, beers, people having fun, and someone will share them the saga of someone in the past. Now, one of the famous saga that describe about for the Viking looking for settlement are the story about Leif Erikson. Leif Erikson. Now, Leif Erikson was known as the Viking who discovered American continent far before Christopher Columbus discovered the land. He discovered America by crossing like the Atlantic Ocean. Imagine riding a longboat all the way to crossing like the oceans. And Leif Erikson named that land as a Vinland. Okay, Vinland means like not Finland. Vinland is because according to this, he described that the land is so fertile that the grapes that big is just like it can produce like grapes that big. That's why they call it Vinland. And however, unfortunately, Leif Erikson and his men cannot build a settlement there in America for too long because somehow the Native American Indians were way more fierce than them, and they have to like what? They have to leave the settlement and they have to abandon it. Now, another kind of like story is about Eric the Red. Eric the Red, he was the one who discovered Greenland. Eric the Red, he was known as Eric the Red. Well, because some people say that he have a red beard. Some people that he have a bad tarnished reputation to spill the redness of blood into his victims. Yes, he was a murderer. Okay, Eric the Red was convicted as the most dangerous man in his time, and then he was being exiled. Now, in his exile, he was end up finding a new land by the name of Greenland, and after that, to cut the story short, he convinced everyone to join him and to settle in Greenland. And there you go. So those are the Viking explorers. Now, when we talk about the Vikings like somehow surprisingly give a lot of contributions into our language right now, into English. You will find a lot of like vocabularies have a Viking origin or have a Nordic origin. Contributions to the world right now is like the vocabularies. Now, if you kind of like learning about the history of linguistic of English language, then there are three major influence that the modern English become right now. Like three major kind of influence. Number one is the Latin. Second one is French. We will talk more about French later. And the third one is the Nordic language. Now, these are some of the vocabularies that I got from the internet. That it has a Scandinavian origins. Okay, for example, cozy. Yes, you're having it right now. Cozy, like in front of you. I mean, in the sofa. You're cozy, and after that, ski. You guys know what ski is. Hug, nudge is also like one of the vocabulary that from Scandinavian origin. What else? Rig. Okay, rig is a part of a ship. Now, okay, actually there are more, but krill. Krill is a small shrimps. Fjord. If you guys know like what fjord is, okay, fjord is a kind of like. I'll show you the pictures right now. Okay, fjord. Yeah, fjord. There's no other vocabulary other than the best is to describe it as a fjord. Now, another kind of like cool things about this kind of like the Scandinavian, the Viking age is like, okay, these are people who love freedoms and they were not ruled by a king. Yes, probably they were ruled by a chieftains or by a king, but then again, the king itself are not have an absolute power. They're very kind of free about it. Okay, free as in like well, everybody can have their own opinion as long you are within the boundaries of the law, of the common law that they establish. The age of the Viking only lasted for about 300 years. Now, what happened with them is like soon they will be absorbed into this kind of like Christian culture. Thanks to the missionary from the Ireland, they sending the missionary to their homeland and they become Christians, okay? And they start to embrace Christianity and then there you go. So that is the lectures about the Vikings and I see you guys next time. There will be a quiz waiting for you in the Google Classroom. Please answer it without opening your textbooks. There you go. Okay, that's it. Alright, bye. God bless you.